Otherwise, they would put you in a box. They had a box, they'd make a box, put you in and bury you. I was there. I know. It was badder than bad.
I've always been aware that I was black in a white world, but I also have a feeling that somehow I would overcome that. And I think that is one of the things that always drove B.B., that somehow he had to overcome that.
We all were subject to racism, bigotry, and hatred and denial. None of us could get a drink of water at a public water fountain. B.B. and none of the rest of us could go and sit in a restaurant and have a decent meal. None of us could stay at B.B. No other Negro could go in the hotel and get a room. So yes, he faced the same thing that all of us faced. That was racism, bigotry, and hatred. But let me add this, though. Let me say this to you about B.B. He never let that turn him against white people.
Young Riley King started dreaming of life back in the Delta. The Delta was home. So late in 1941, 16-year-old Riley jumped on his bicycle and began to pedal his way home, back to where his heart belonged.
Well, he rode a bicycle from his daddy's home at Lexington, and it's about 50 miles is how far it is.
He was raggedy when he came to my house from Lexington. He didn't have no clothing thing.
I finally made it into Kilmichael, and believe it or not, the axle on my bicycle had worn out, so it broke.
So me and John were sitting on the porch one evening, and here he come riding on his bike. And I said, who is that? And he said, I don't know. And he got up a little closer. I said, oh, that's Riley. But see, all his other people had left here.
But there was a few people, like the Fairs, Mr. John Fair and his beautiful wife, Miss Leslie Fair.
John told him, said, now, when y'all get through riding around and all, when you get ready to go to bed, said, just come on back here at the house.
John brought him to my father and to give him a place to stay. So he fixed that little cabin up for him, and he didn't have any clothes. All he had was just the clothes on his back in that bicycle.
I had a good boss. Mr. Cotledge was one of those people that I wish the world had a lot more of them. He seemed to be one of them people that was a fair man. During those days in the 30s, a lot of times we didn't think a lot of white people was fair. We thought a lot of the white people at that time thought only of themselves. But he wasn't one of those people.
B.B. was talented. He could do a good job. He could cut wood, he could plow, he could do just anything, pick cotton. Excellent cotton picker.
The house stood about here, where B.B. lived when he lived with Flake and Zelma Cartledge and their son Wayne. I
do remember that he always wanted to play a guitar. And a fellow named Denzel Tibble had a guitar he wanted to sell for $15. And my father went down there and paid for it for him, and B.B. paid my father back, you see.
You may not know that Wayne wanted his daddy to buy the guitar for him, and he wouldn't do it, and B.B. was the one that ended up with a guitar.
And I'm still mad about I didn't get a guitar.
When I first came to the Barrett plantation, I'd heard a lot about the plantation and heard a lot from a lot of the tenants that lived on the plantation about what a nice man he was to work for.
B.B. used to be my tractor drive. He drove tractor on Mr. Barrett. B.B. did.
There was many big plantations, and they would have somebody they call a rider. Usually it was a white person on a horse. This white person usually carried a gun in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases carried a whip. Mr. Barrett was very thoughtful, I would say. So what he did, he hired a black overseer named Mr. Baggett, Booker Baggett. And we worked like crazy because we wanted to keep him. And Mr. Baggett is the one that taught me to drive tractor. If there's any such thing as a superstar in tractors, I thought I was. Of course, I thought it was pretty cute, too, at the time. I'd wake up, and I'm due at the tractor barn in about half an hour. and I lived about a mile from the tractor barn. So when I'd wake up, having about 30, 40 minutes to get to the tractor barn, I put on my clothes and was at the tractor barn by the time everybody else was ready to fill up.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand.
My early years, I sang gospel songs with various quartets. And usually I was the lead singer all the time. And we did very well. That was a group called
the famous St. John Gospel Singers.
Famous St. John Gospel Singers.
The St. John Gospel Singers were in Upbeat. Brother John was the president of the group. Another brother, O.L., the baby brother, was singing with him. Burkett Davis, who was the cousin, was singing with him. And Ryder was the guitar player. And that set them apart. Plus the fact he had a very good voice. They had some good voices in the quartet.
They had a good time listening to it. When I get home, I never do turn radio off. Sit there and wait on them to come on. Sure did.
Then it's the time that I decided I wanted to get married, and I got married to a young lady.
To Martha King. But in that year, we lived in the house together. We lived in a 3-room shotgun house. 2 doors, one in front and one in back.
But Martha and B.B. married, they never had no children. He was singing gospel song then, and he didn't stay at home much with her. He didn't stay at home much. He didn't run around singing a whole lot.
When on weekends, then B.B. would just decide he would go to town and play, and people give him a great offering in town.
The Saturdays was my day. Go to town on Saturdays and have a good time.
If you ever been down to New Orleans, then you can understand just what I mean. Now, all through the week.
Some walked to town. Some would catch a ride. One person might have a car. And people used to come to town then in wagons.
Everybody threw their cares to the wind.
Church Street was black folk street.
It was rocking. It was rocking.
People were in and out, gambling, and doing what little dancing they were doing. If you didn't get on Church Street, you wouldn't be in you know.
And they would get after him about it and say, hey, you can't sing in St. John Gospel Singers and sing on the blues on the corner Saturday night.
He had one corner he would play on early during Saturday afternoon and would put his hat out and people would throw coins in it. Later on during that Saturday evening, when he would move further down Church Street, where the real roughnecks were and the people who had a real appreciation for the blues and didn't mind people knowing it, they threw just a little more coins in the hat than the earlier crowd, which probably were the church-going people.
Nah, he used to play on what they call, Juke House's portrait all the way down Church Street. That's what used to be, I reckon you wouldn't call them nightclubs, but juke joints. It would be that time of year then.
In Indianola, Mississippi, on a Saturday night on Church Street, you would be remembered forever. I came in a hurry on my way to go to a church to sing that night. I'd been plowing, and then it happened. We got off that evening. I cut the ignition off of the tractor, and I jumped down and started running to get ready to go up, and it started up again. And when the tractor started up again, it went forward, and all of this broke off. Scared me half to death. I never did stop running, and that's the first time I went to Memphis.
And now I'm walking and crying. You don't love me no more. Well, I did all for you, did all I could. All I did, darling.
Memphis was a city. I would say it was like heaven. All them guitars and guys could play them. Oh, what a feeling it was.
Beale Street had many musicians that was interested in trying to help you if you wanted to learn. And they had musicians that would just meet up on Beale Street like on the weekends and trade ideas.
When I came to Memphis and started hearing all those other guys play, I found out I was nothing that much. I'm still like that today.
Once in Memphis, B.B. King sought and found his cousin, the great bluesman Booker White.
Booker was born up around West Point, Mississippi. And a lot of people say he taught me to play, but that's not true. But he did teach me quite a bit about being a blues player. Booker White used to tell me that to be a blues singer, you should always dress like you was trying to go to the bank to borrow money, which means you dress, well, a word musicians use, kind of sharp, you know. Even if you was casual, you look clean, not like you slept on the Mississippi Bridge last night. But this is the kind of guitar that he played. And he used to play with a slide on his finger. And I could never get that. Well, I've got stupid fingers. They just wouldn't work. So in order to get somewhat the type sound that he had, I would trill my hand like that. And I think over the years I've done pretty good with it. Still don't have it right.
I asked B.B. one time how he got his guitar to sound that way, and he said, I was trying to make it sound like a steel. So who would have thought?
Beale Street Amateur Night. I hosted the show for 11 consecutive years.
At first, you used to have a $5, $3, and $2 prize. But then it got so that was just everybody that came on stage got $1.
Get on the amateur show and you can win $5 if you had the best song or the best voice or whatever.
Now, I remember going on that show many times, and thank God for Rufus Thomas, because Rufus Thomas was the MC. I guess I looked so bad and so pitiful and was so broke. Rufus Thomas, when he would see me, say, you know you was on last week. He'd say, yeah. Well, why are you back this week? I need to go on again, because I need that $1.
That $1 that he got with the bus fare being a nickel, it could last him just about a whole week.
A lot of times he would put me back on again, and he did that many times. So, Rufus, thank you. I stayed up there for about 6 or 8 months, and then I called some of my family back, and I said, tell Mr. Barrett I'm sorry, and I would like to work and pay it off.
So he got back in with Mr. John Barrett and came back and break by the day, driving tractors.
Mr. Barrett says, it's okay. I'm not angry with you. Come on in. Well, with wobbly legs, I came back. And I think it cost me $500 or $600, and I paid it off. And the next time I left to go to Memphis to start my career, I started it correctly.
Whoa, Lord, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city, God knows.
When we left Mississippi going to Memphis, we expected many, many things to happen, and it did. The late Sonny Boy, the second Sonny Boy Williamson, but he was on the radio in West Memphis, Arkansas. I decided I wanted to go over and see him one day, and one day I did. And when I went over to see him, I begged him to let me sing a song. So he made me audition, and I did, and he liked it, and he put me on his show that day. And that night he had 2 jobs to play. One of them he didn't want because it didn't pay much money. So he called the lady and asked the lady that he was supposed to play for, did she hear the program? She said, yes. So he called her and he said, Miss Anna, did you hear the boy? And she said, yeah. He said, well, I'm going to send him down to work for me tonight. So I went over there, man, and they paid me $12. 12 American dollars. That's a lot of bread, you know, for a guy that's been making, you know, like 35 cents a 100 picking cotton, you know. She said, if you can get a job on the radio, like Sonny Boy has, I'll give you this job, and you can play 6 nights a week. And I thought about that and said, God, I hope I can get me a job on the radio.